All right. Graphing y equals a sine of x minus c or cosine of x minus c. Graphing sine or cosine with a phase change is really what's happening here. We're about to do phase changes, which are horizontal shifts. So left or right shifts. We're going to start these the way that we've started all of the problems so far, all of the graphing problems so far. I'm going to write a +0 here, and then we'll start with the midline. So there is nothing at the end. There's nothing being added outside here. D is equal to 0, which means the midline is at y equals 0. Boom. Next, A is -1 in this case because it's negative cosine. So that's the same as -1, like -1 cosine. The amplitude is thus 1. I'm going to go ahead and mark 1 up here and down here. And then I'm going to put in my guiding lines. Oops, put that one far too down. Excellent. All right, C. In this case, C is equal to not negative pi over 6, but positive pi over 6. It's always the opposite of the sign that you see. C is equal to pi over 6. We know, yes, phase changes, phase shift, I think is what we've been calling it. Yeah, phase shift. The phase, scrollsy scroll. The phase shift is equal to C divided by B. So C is pi over 6. B is going to be 1. So this is pi over 6 over 1, which is just pi over 6. So that's saying that we're shifting to the right pi over 6. And B, we already said was equal to 1 right here. And that means our period is 2 pi. Now, because we have a phase shift here, we have a phase shift of pi over 6. Even though our period is still 2 pi, we can't use the key points that we've been using all along. Not those ones up here. We can't use these key points here because these key points are only for phase shift of 0, period 2 pi. We have a phase shift, so we're going to need to make new key points because we're starting in a different area. The first key point is always the phase shift. So pi over 6 is our first key point. Our quarter period is our period divided by 4. That's 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. So we're just going to add pi over 2 until we have 5 key points. But notice what I'm going to have to do here. I'm going to have to add pi over 6 plus pi over 2. And like, yeah, you can use a calculator to do this, but it's honestly just, it's a lot simpler if you just make your quarter period have the same denominator as your phase shift. It'll make your whole life easier. Hot tip. Make the quarter period. I don't know why it keeps on doing that saving thing. I'm going to pause it and find out. All right, I'm going to see if I fixed it there. All right, make quarter period, same denom as phase shift, because you're going to be adding them. So in this case, I have a denominator of 6 over here. So I'm going to come here. In order to make 2 into a 6, I would multiply by 3. So this is 3 pi over 6. I know it's teeny tiny over there. So because I'm going to be doing the math, pi over 6 plus pi over 2, I have to have the same denominator, and I can do it really easily, and then I can just do the math in my head. So pi over 6 plus 3 pi over 6 is 4 pi over 6. And I added our quarter period, which was pi over 2 or 3 pi over 6. And then just keep on adding 3. So 4 plus 3 is 7 pi over 6. 7 plus 3 is 10 pi over 6. Now I have 4 points. 10 plus 3 is 13 pi over 6. Let's see how many spokes here I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, just short. Let's just extend it a little bit out to 13. So I'm going to make each of these worth a pi over 6 because I need to go out to 13 pi over 6. This is 13 pi over 6 all the way out here. I'm going to count by 2 pi's over 6. And yes, they like this and this, they simplify down to pi over 3s, but I'm not super concerned about that. I'm just going to count by, this is 2 pi over 6. This is 4 pi over 6. This is 6 pi over 6, 8 pi over 6. I'm going to erase this in just a moment. I just want to write this out here so we can, all right. So this is how I'm labeling my axis. I'm counting each of these as a pi over 6. My first one needs to be at pi over 6. So why don't I just, whoop, I'll erase him. Pi over 6. The next one's at 4 pi over 6. We already have it. The next one should be at 7 pi over 6. So let me erase. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to erase all of them and come back for it. Boom, 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 boom. Notice how it's 3. 3 is the jump here, right? 3 pi over 6. I'm making a jump of 3. I'm going to jump 3 each time. And those are going to be my values. So right here, we have 7 pi over 6. 3 more over, this is 10 pi over 6. 3 more over, this is 13 pi over 6. Okay. Oof, almost there. So now we're looking at cosine. Which starts at the top or bottom. And because a is negative 1. Nope, that little cloud thing's turning on still. A is equal to -1. So a is negative, maybe is what I should say. A is negative, which means we start at the bottom. So I'm not starting right here. That would be that's not where I'm starting. I've had a phase shift. So the phase shift is the fact that we've moved over that amount right there. And we're starting right here on the pi over 6 instead. So I'm starting at the bottom. I go to my next value up, next value step up, next value step down, next value step down. Oh. There it is. Beautiful. And I can just kind of erase these lines. And I have a beautiful graph right there. The domain on all of these, negative infinity to infinity, And the range, the bottom is -1. I don't know why this -1 is down so low. The range is going to be -1 to +1. All right, next one. Let's just take care of the where does it start part at first. So this is sine. So when we get to it, sine always starts at the midline. And if A is positive, it goes up first. If A is negative, it goes down first. A is positive because it's going to end up being 2. So this will go up first. Now we have that out of the way. Once we get to, what is that little loading thing? It has to be some kind of cloud thing. Oh, I'm going to pause again. All right, I'm not so certain why that's happening, but I'll troubleshoot the rest later. All right, so let's go ahead and start with D. So there's nothing out here at the end. So D is equal to 0. That means the midline is at y equals 0. A is 2, which means our amplitude is 2. So I'm going to go 2 units up, 2 units down from the midline. There we go. All right. C, okay. This is positive, which means C will be negative. C is always the opposite of the sign you see. So C is negative pi over 4. The phase shift is equal to C divided by B, negative pi over 4 divided by B, which is 1. B is 1 right in there. So the phase shift is negative pi over 4, which means it's going to the left pi over 4. Our first place we plot a point, our first key point is at the phase shift. So the phase shift is negative pi over 4. That's where we'll start. Oops, I need a little room here. Let's see. I need a teeny bit more room. I love doing things on, okay. When I looked it up online to see what this little cloud thing is, it appears some people have had issues with it, but there was no easy answer besides contact support. It shouldn't be backing up that frequently. Okay. I was doing all that so that I could have room to write B. This B is 1, we already said that, and it means the period is 2 pi. The quarter period is the period divided by 4, so that's 2 pi divided by 4, pi over 2. Once again, because we're going to be adding plus pi over 2 here, I want it to have the same denominator. I want to be able to add the quarter period to the phase shift. So I want this to have a denominator of 4 so that it matches the phase shift. So this quarter period that I'm going to use is 2 pi over 4. So I'm just going to add 2 pi over 4 each time. So negative pi over 4 plus 2 pi over 4. So it's like -1 plus 1. That's 1 pi over 4. Add another 2. 2 plus 1 is 3 pi over 4. 3 plus 2 is 5 pi over 4. One more. 5 plus 2 is 7 pi over 4. And I'm going to go ahead and mark those. So I'm going to make each of these tick marks a pi over 4. So this is negative pi over 4. This would be positive pi over 4. And notice how it's 2 tick marks between this the important the key points. It's going to be that way the entire time. So this will be 3 pi over 4. This will be 5 pi over 4. This will be 7 pi over 4. All right, we already said we are sine, so we're starting at the midpoint, at the midline, and we're going up first because A is positive. So my first important x value, negative pi over 4. I'm going up first, so I go to the next one, which is pi over 4, all the way to the top, and now I'm going all the way down. And then back up again, and boom. The domain on this will be negative infinity to infinity, and the range goes from -2 to 2. That's it. All right, so in the next video, we're combining it all together. We're going to put all of the tricks into one. I'll see you in that video. Bye.